New York City. Jim Bianco joins us now, founder and president of Bianco Research. Jim, let's start with this one. Do you fade Friday's move or fade the move this morning? Which one?
Well, it depends on if you're short-term or if you're long-term. If you're a very short-term trader, you'd probably fade Friday's move. But bigger picture, you might want to be fading today's move. And the reason is, look, I don't know much about viruses, and I'm not a virologist, but I will say this. What is the biggest problem the economy has right now is the Great Resignation and the supply chain problem. This, with all the restrictions that we're about to get, it's not going to help that situation. It's going to make it worse. And that probably means that constraints are going to get worse. You're lucky you got your Christmas tree when you did. It might have actually been harder to get it in the coming weeks as well. And that might mean more inflation because demand for stuff is not going to change. We've already got record demand for durable consumption. We've got record demand for retail products, but yet we don't have those products to meet them. They're either stuck in the Los Angeles port or we're just not going back to work to make them. This is not going to help that situation,
Jim,
and it's not going to be resolved anytime soon.
Jim, you synthesize like nobody. I put you and Michael Darda on the top of the ability to synthesize everything we're talking about. Can you say that even with this news, corporations will adapt?
Oh, they will adapt, there's no doubt. But what's different about now versus January of 2020, or even when we got the Delta variant in May, is we've got the economy humming, we've got people wanting stuff, we've got inflation. We did not have inflation in May, or if we did, we were firmly convinced it was transitory. We were worried about deflation back in January and February of 2020. So this is going to change the calculus quite a bit, especially for the Federal Reserve, because it's easy for them to say if there is any kind of restriction in the economy, we'll just ease aggressively. That works when you don't have inflation. But when you do have inflation and you try to stimulate, especially an economy that's already suffering from a supply chain problem, so let's stimulate even more demand, you might wind up making it worse.
Hey, Jim, you went there. Are you questioning the Fed put with this kind of backdrop?
The Fed put should be questioned when you have inflation. When you don't have inflation, like we did the previous 30 years, then you don't have to question it as much because the Fed put would benefit both stocks and bonds. But now, if they start stimulating, the bond market might not like it because it might perceive that it's going to accelerate inflation. The stock market might like it, but you won't get the same reaction out of both markets like we have every other time.
Jim Bianco, so if I have a longer term perspective, forget about the traders scalping this and doing this and that weeks out. If I'm out quarters, do I change anything today?
You don't change anything today, and you might not change anything this week, but what you have to be careful of is if we get enough restrictions, you're going to see higher and faster inflation because there's one way you can fix the supply chain problem. You raise prices enough to cool demand so that everything comes back into balance. But that's not the way we want to fix it because that's kind of the losing way to fix it. So that's what I'd be most concerned about longer term. Does this potentially mean economic restrictions? No, everybody still wants the same amount of stuff. So therefore, the answer is higher prices or even more inflation than we've already been fretting about.
I'm willing to sell the tree, fully decorated. There's a price. I mean, there's always a price, Tom. I'm willing to go there. What would you pay for it? Thousands?
I would rather.
Are you willing to go into the thousands?
I would rather put the Christmas ornaments on vet bill
than buy my tree.
Fake tree.
Then get a fake tree. You don't want a fake tree.
Fake trees are un-American.
Jim Bianco of Bianco Research. Let me. You think fake trees are un-American?
John.
He's not American, Tom. You know that, right? So it doesn't really count.
Cutting the tree down with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, good to catch up. Thank you, sir. Kelly Lyons, Jim's point there on the Federal Reserve. I can see you in the middle of